The meatloaf was getting cold, but I couldn't taste it anyway. Not after what Megan had just said. "I've been seeing Aaron for 6 months," she repeated, cutting her food with surgical precision. "I'm not asking for permission, Tom. I'm telling you how it's going to be. Accept it, or be alone." Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I set down my fork and looked at my wife of 12 years. Really looked at her. The blonde highlights she'd gotten last month that I'd complimented. The new lipstick she wore every day now. The way she held her phone face down on the table, protective as a mother hen. "Aaron Miles," I said slowly. "My friend Aaron." "Your former friend," Megan corrected, not looking up from her plate. Things change. Ellie, our 10-year-old, was pushing peas around her plate, pretending not to listen. 8-year-old Max had already wolfed down his dinner and was fidgeting in his chair, eager to escape to his video games. Smart kid. "So what exactly are you proposing here, Meg?" I kept my voice level, construction manager calm. The same tone I used when telling a subcontractor his work was garbage. She finally looked at me, her green eyes cold as January in Maine. "I'm moving forward with my life. You can either grow up and accept that people change, or you can be bitter and alone. Your choice." Her phone buzzed against the table. Aaron's name lit up the screen for a split second before she grabbed it. "Daddy, can I be excused?" Ellie's voice was small. "Sure, sweetheart, take your brother upstairs." Megan was already texting, thumbs flying across the screen. A little smile played at the corners of her mouth, the same smile she used to give me when I'd surprise her with flowers. "I need to use the bathroom," I said, standing up. She didn't even look up. I walked down the hallway to our bathroom, but I wasn't heading for the toilet. Megan's iPad was charging on the counter, and she never bothered to log out of anything. Sloppy for someone planning a betrayal. The messages opened like a book I didn't want to read. "Aaron, can't wait to have you all to myself tonight. Tom working late again? Megan, he's so clueless. Thinks I'm at book club. LOL. Aaron, your husband's an idiot. Should have treated you better. Megan, he's boring. You make me feel alive again." There were photos, explicit ones. My wife and my best friend in positions that made my stomach turn. The timestamps showed they'd been meeting at the Riverside Motel every Tuesday and Thursday for months, while I was working overtime to pay for her dental hygienist courses. I scrolled further back. The messages started 7 months ago, right after Aaron's wife Rachel had that miscarriage. While he was supposed to be grieving, he was pursuing my wife. While I was lending him my truck to haul away baby furniture, he was planning to steal my family. The bathroom door was locked, but my hands were shaking anyway. I took screenshots with my phone, sending them to my email. Evidence. A construction manager always documents everything. When I came back to the dining room, Megan was still texting. "I'm going out to the garage," I said. "Whatever." She didn't look up. The garage was my sanctuary. Tools hung in perfect order on pegboard walls. My workbench was clean, organized, everything in its place, unlike my life. I sat on my rolling stool and stared at the photos on my phone. My wife, my best friend, in graphic detail. Aaron had been coming to our house for barbecues just last weekend. He'd played catch with Max in the backyard while Megan made lemonade. He'd complimented the deck I'd built, asked to borrow my circular saw, all while screwing my wife behind my back. I opened a beer from the garage refrigerator and thought about my options. I could storm back inside, confront them both, scream and throw things like they probably expected, give them the drama they wanted, the excuse to paint me as the unstable husband. Or I could be smarter. I pulled up my phone and called my brother Danny in Portland. "Tom, it's late. What's up?" "I need a favor, Dan. Can the kids and I crash at your place for a few days?" "Of course, but what's wrong? You sound weird." Megan's having an affair. With Aaron Miles. Silence on the other end. Danny had never liked Aaron, said he was too flashy, too eager to impress. Jesus, Tom, I'm sorry. Yeah, come over. Stay as long as you need. I'll be there in an hour. I went back inside. Megan was loading the dishwasher, humming under her breath, happy, planning her evening with my former best friend. I'm taking the kids to Danny's for the weekend, I said. Give you some space to think about what you want. She looked surprised. Oh, okay, that's probably good. I packed bags for Ellie and Max, telling them we were having a sleepover adventure with Uncle Danny. They were excited. Kids that age still believed in adventures. As I loaded the truck, I could hear Megan on the phone in the kitchen. He's leaving for the weekend. I know, right? It's perfect. I can't wait to see you too. I didn't scream. I didn't break anything. I just started plotting. Danny's apartment in Portland was small but comfortable. The kids were thrilled to sleep on air mattresses in the living room, like camping indoors. I lay awake on Danny's couch, staring at the ceiling and planning my next moves. Friday morning, I called in sick to work. First time in 3 years. Gus, my foreman, was concerned. You never get sick, boss. Everything all right? Family emergency. I'll be back Monday. Take care of yourself. I drove the kids to school from Portland, an hour each way, but I needed to see what Megan was up to. Her car was gone from the driveway by the time I got back to town, probably meeting Aaron before her shift at the dental office. The Riverside Motel sat on Route 2, the kind of place that rented rooms by the hour. I parked across the street at the Dunkin' Donuts and waited. Sure enough, at 10:30 a.m., Megan's Honda pulled into the lot. Aaron's flashy red pickup was already there. I took photos, time stamps, license plates, building my case. That evening, I drove back to Portland and helped the kids with homework while Danny made dinner. They kept asking when Mommy was coming to get them. Soon, I lied. Saturday morning, my phone started buzzing, text after text from Megan. Where are you? The kids need to come home. Tom, this is ridiculous. Call me back. I'm worried about Ellie and Max. This isn't like you. I didn't respond. Let her worry. Let her wonder what I knew. Instead, I drove to O'Malley's pub in our hometown. Saturday afternoon was when the construction crews gathered to blow off steam and catch up on gossip. I needed information. Tom, Big Sal waved me over to the bar. Heard you were out sick. Feeling better? Getting there. I ordered a beer and settled in to listen. The conversation flowed around me. Job sites, weather, whose wife was driving them crazy. Then Denise, the bartender, leaned over. Speaking of wives driving people crazy, your buddy Aaron's been in here every night this week, buying rounds, acting like he won the lottery. My grip tightened on the beer bottle. That right? Yeah, bragging about some new development in his life. Wouldn't say what, but he's been real generous with the tips. She lowered her voice. Also been talking about how some people don't appreciate what they have. Tiny, a crane operator with arms like tree trunks, snorted. Aaron Miles is all talk, always has been. Remember when he claimed he could bench press 300, couldn't even lift 250? Guy's got an ego the size of his truck, Sal agreed. All flash, no substance. I filed that away. Aaron's insecurities were showing. Good to know. My phone rang. Rachel Miles, Aaron's wife. Tom, I'm sorry to bother you, but I need to ask you something. What's up, Rachel? Is Aaron with you? He said he was helping you with some project this weekend, but he's not answering his phone. Aaron was using me as his alibi while he screwed my wife. No, Rachel. Aaron's not with me. Silence. Then, quietly, I found some things on his phone. Messages. I think he's having an affair. Rachel, we need to talk. Can you meet me at O'Malley's in an hour? Yes. God, yes. I need to talk to someone. I hung up and stared at my beer. Aaron's wife was about to become my ally. Rachel arrived looking like she'd been crying for hours. Her nurse scrubs were wrinkled, her dark hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. She slid into the booth across from me with shaking hands. "I'm sorry to drag you into this, Tom, but I didn't know who else to call. Aaron's been so distant since we lost the baby, and now I find these messages." She pulled out Aaron's old phone, the one he'd replaced last month. He forgot to wipe this one. The messages were all there. Aaron and Megan planning their meetings, laughing about deceiving their spouses, making plans for a future together. "That bastard," I said quietly. Rachel looked up sharply. "You knew?" "Found out Thursday night. Megan told me at dinner, bold as brass. Said I could accept it or be alone." "They're planning to leave us," Rachel whispered, scrolling through more messages. "Look at this one from last week. Aaron, once I get the shop expansion loan approved, we can make our move. Divorce papers, custody battle, the whole thing. Tom won't know what hit him." Megan, "What about Rachel?" Aaron, "She'll get over it. She's tougher than she looks." Rachel's face went white. "The shop expansion. He's been asking me to co-sign loan papers. Said it was for our future." "Don't sign anything," I said firmly. "Rachel, they're planning to take us both for everything we're worth." She nodded, wiping her eyes. "What do we do?" "We get smart. We document everything, and we make sure they don't get away with it." We spent the next hour going through both phones, taking screenshots, building a timeline. Aaron and Megan had been sloppy, overconfident. They'd left a trail of evidence that would sink them both. "I have to ask," Rachel said as we prepared to leave. "Are you going to try to save your marriage?" I thought about Megan's cold eyes across the dinner table, her casual cruelty, the way she'd hummed while texting Aaron. "No," I said. "Some things can't be fixed, but I'm going to make sure they pay for what they've done." Rachel nodded grimly. "Good. Aaron thinks he's so smart, so charming. Time someone showed him different." As I drove back to Portland, my phone buzzed with another text from Megan. "Tom, you're scaring me. Please call. We can work this out." Too late for that, I thought. Way too late. Monday morning, I dropped the kids at school and went straight to Janet Morrison's law office. Janet had handled my father's estate and came highly recommended for family law. She was sharp, no nonsense, and had a reputation for protecting her clients' interests. "Tom, good to see you, though I wish it were under better circumstances." She gestured to the chair across from her desk. "Tell me everything." I laid out the whole story, showing her the screenshots, the timeline, the evidence Rachel and I had gathered. Janet's expression grew grimmer as I talked. "This is actually very good for your case," she said finally. "Your wife's been careless. The financial records show she's been using joint funds for these hotel meetings. That's marital waste. And if she's been leaving the children unsupervised during these encounters..." "She has. Look at these timestamps. Tuesday and Thursday afternoons when the kids get home from school." Janet nodded, making notes. "Child endangerment. We can use this." "Tom, I have to ask. What's your goal here? Reconciliation or divorce?" "Divorce. Full custody if possible, and I want them to face consequences for what they've done." "Understood. File the papers today. We'll request emergency temporary custody based on the child endangerment evidence. How are your finances?" "Separate checking account she doesn't know about 15,000 saved up. And I can prove she's been draining our joint account." "Perfect. We'll freeze the joint accounts immediately." I left Janet's office feeling like I had some control back. But as I drove to the construction site, my phone exploded with calls and texts. Megan had been served the papers at work. "How dare you! You can't take my children!" "This is insane, Tom. I never said I wanted a divorce." "Call me right now or you'll regret it." I turned off my phone and went to work. Gus took one look at my face and put me on equipment maintenance, solo work that would keep me busy and away from questions. But word travels fast in a small town. By lunch, half the crew knew something was up. Boss, you okay? Little Mike, our youngest crew member, approached cautiously. You look like someone ran over your dog. Personal stuff, Mike. I'll be fine. Anything we can do? I looked around at my crew, good men who'd worked with me for years, who trusted me to keep their jobs steady and their paychecks coming. They deserved to know what was happening. Megan's been having an affair, I said simply, with Aaron Miles. I filed for divorce today. The reaction was immediate and loud. These men knew Aaron, had worked alongside him on projects where he'd provided equipment. They knew he was married to Rachel, knew about the miscarriage. That piece of garbage, Gus spat, after everything his wife's been through. Always knew he was no good, said Pete, our electrician. Too smooth, you know. Real men don't need to work that hard to impress people. What do you need, boss? Mike asked. Because we got your back. I appreciate that. Just keep doing good work. Don't let this drama affect the job. But even as I said it, I was thinking about how useful their loyalty might be. That evening, I picked up the kids and took them to McDonald's. They were confused about why we weren't going home, why Mommy seemed angry when she'd called Ellie's phone. Are you and Mommy getting divorced? Ellie asked quietly, picking at her chicken nuggets. Kids always know more than you think they do. Maybe, sweetheart. But whatever happens, you and Max are the most important thing in the world to me. That won't change. Is it because of Mr. Aaron? Max piped up. I saw him at our house when you weren't there. Mommy said it was a secret. My heart clenched. When did you see Mr. Aaron? Lots of times. He brings Mommy flowers and they go in your bedroom. But I'm not supposed to tell. I exchanged a look with Ellie, who nodded solemnly. Mommy said it would hurt your feelings. So they'd been meeting at my house, in my bed, using my children as unwilling accomplices to their betrayal. You're not in trouble, I assured them. You didn't do anything wrong. But from now on, if anyone asks you to keep secrets from Daddy, you tell me right away, okay? They both nodded. Wednesday morning, I got the call I'd been expecting. Judge Franklin wanted to see both parties for an emergency custody hearing. Megan had filed a counter motion claiming I was unstable and had kidnapped the children. The courthouse was modern but intimidating, all glass and steel designed to make people feel small. Megan sat with her lawyer, a slick guy in an expensive suit who looked like he charged by the syllable. She'd dressed conservatively. Navy dress, minimal makeup, playing the concerned mother role. Aaron sat behind her in the gallery, wearing his best shirt and a supportive expression. The sight of him made my jaw clench. Your Honor, Megan's lawyer began, my client is deeply concerned about her children's welfare. Mr. Jacobs has exhibited erratic behavior, removing the children from their home without notice, refusing to communicate about their whereabouts. This is classic parental alienation. Judge Franklin, a stern woman in her 60s, looked unimpressed. Ms. Morrison, your response? Janet stood smoothly. Your Honor, Mr. Jacobs discovered evidence of his wife's extramarital affair and made the reasonable decision to remove the children from an unstable environment. We have documentation showing that Mrs. Jacobs has been leaving the minor children unsupervised during school hours to conduct this affair, using marital funds to pay for hotel rooms and involving the children in deception. She presented our evidence packet, photos, bank statements, timestamps, everything laid out in chronological order. Furthermore, Janet continued, the children have disclosed that Mrs. Jacobs brought her paramour to the family home and instructed them to keep this secret from their father. Megan's face went white. Her lawyer whispered frantically in her ear. Judge Franklin reviewed the documents silently. The courtroom was quiet, except for the ticking of the wall clock. Mrs. Jacobs, the judge said finally, these are serious allegations. Do you deny having an extramarital relationship? Megan's voice was barely a whisper. No, Your Honor. But that doesn't make me a bad mother. It does when you're using your children as accomplices and leaving them unsupervised to conduct this relationship. Mr. Jacobs, where are the children currently? With me at my brother's house in Portland, Your Honor. They're attending their regular school, maintaining their normal routine. Temporary custody remains with Mr. Jacobs pending a full hearing in 30 days. Mrs. Jacobs, you'll have supervised visitation on weekends. This court does not look kindly on parents who prioritize their romantic interests over their children's welfare. The gavel came down like a gunshot. In the hallway afterward, Erin approached me while Megan sobbed in her lawyer's arms. Tom, this has gone far enough. You're hurting innocent people. I looked at him. Really looked at him. Erin had always been handsome in an obvious way, the kind of guy who spent too much time at the gym and too much money on his truck. But up close, I could see the weakness in his eyes, the insecurity he tried to hide behind swagger. Innocent people? I kept my voice level. Like your wife? Like my kids? Rachel and I, our marriage was already over. And Megan, she was lonely, Tom. You were never home, always working. So you decided to help her with her loneliness. How noble of you. Erin's face flushed. You don't understand what it's like to be with a real woman, someone who appreciates what she has. And you don't understand what it's like to be a real man. But you're about to learn. I walked away, leaving him standing in the courthouse hallway. Behind me, I could hear Megan calling my name, but I didn't turn around. The war had begun, and I'd just won the first battle. The Founders' Day Festival was Millbrook's biggest event of the year. Every local business had a booth. There were rides for kids, live music, and a beer tent that drew half the town. It was also the perfect venue for what Rachel and I had planned. Are you sure about this? She asked, meeting me at the festival setup Friday evening. Once we do this, there's no taking it back. They didn't think about taking it back when they were screwing in my bed, I replied, checking the banner we'd had printed. Besides, they wanted to go public with their relationship. We're just helping them along. The banner was simple, professional-looking. Congratulations, Erin and Megan, on your new relationship, with a photo collage Rachel had created from Erin's phone. Nothing explicit, just the two of them at the motel, holding hands, kissing in his truck. Below the photos, Millbrook's newest couple. Ask them about their exciting dating timeline. Little Mike from my crew had a cousin who ran a small plane service for advertising banners. For $500, he'd agreed to fly our message over the festival Saturday afternoon, right during peak attendance. Rachel, you don't have to be here for this, I said. This could get ugly. She shook her head firmly. Erin destroyed our marriage while I was grieving our lost baby. He deserves everything he gets. Saturday dawned clear and sunny. Perfect festival weather. I brought Ellie and Max early, wanting them to enjoy the rides before things got complicated. They ran off to the bounce house while I set up at the volunteer fire department's booth, selling raffle tickets and keeping an eye on the crowd. Megan arrived around noon with Gina, her friend from the dental office. She'd dressed carefully, sundress, sandals, hair perfectly styled, playing the wronged wife, gathering sympathy from anyone who'd listen. Erin showed up separately, trying to look casual in his expensive jeans and polo shirt. He bought a beer and worked the crowd like a politician, shaking hands and slapping backs. A few people seemed uncomfortable around him, but most didn't know the full story yet. That was about to change. At 2 p.m., right when the local band was between sets, the plane appeared overhead. The banner unfurled behind it, clearly visible to the hundreds of people gathered in the park. The reaction was immediate. People pointed and laughed. Cell phones came out, taking pictures. I watched Megan's face go white as she read the banner, watched Erin's confident smile crumble. "Oh my God," someone near me said. "Is that Tom Jacobs' wife? And Erin Miles? Isn't he married to that nurse? Didn't she just have a miscarriage?" The gossip spread like wildfire through the crowd. Megan tried to leave, but Gina grabbed her arm, talking rapidly. Aaron looked around desperately, as if searching for an escape route. That's when Rachel made her move. She'd positioned herself near the main stage with a microphone she'd borrowed from the volunteer fire department. As the band finished setting up, she stepped forward. "Excuse me, everyone. I have a quick announcement." The crowd quieted, expecting some routine festival business. "I just wanted to publicly thank my husband, Aaron Miles, and his girlfriend, Megan Jacobs, for being so honest about their relationship. It takes real courage to conduct an affair for 7 months, while your spouse is grieving a miscarriage. Aaron, honey, I've moved out of the house and filed for divorce. The papers are on your kitchen table. Megan, I hope you're better at being a stepmother than you are at being faithful." She dropped the microphone and walked away, leaving the crowd buzzing with shock and excitement. Aaron pushed through the crowd toward the stage, his face red with rage and embarrassment. "Rachel! Get back here!" But she was already at her car, driving away with a smile on her face. Megan was crying now, surrounded by a crowd of onlookers pretending to comfort her while fishing for details. Gina had abandoned her, probably calculating how this would affect her own reputation. "Daddy, what's everyone talking about?" Ellie appeared at my side, cotton candy in hand. "Adult stuff, sweetheart. Nothing for you to worry about." But Max was more direct. "Is that about Mommy and Mr. Aaron? Everyone's looking at us." He was right. People were staring, whispering, pointing. Some looked sympathetic, others seemed to be enjoying the drama, small-town entertainment at its finest. Aaron was pushing through the crowd toward me now, his face twisted with anger. "You snake!" he snarled when he reached me. "This is your doing." "I didn't make you cheat on your wife," I replied calmly. "I just helped people understand what kind of man you really are." "You think you're so smart, don't you? Well, this isn't over." "You're right. It's not." Gus and several of my crew had materialized around us, forming a protective circle. Aaron looked at their faces and seemed to realize he was outnumbered. "This is harassment," he said, but his voice lacked conviction. "No," said Gus, stepping closer. "Harassment is what you did to Tom's family, what you did to your wife. This is just consequences." Aaron looked around the circle of hostile faces, then at the crowd still buzzing about the banner and Rachel's announcement. His shoulders sagged. "This isn't over," he repeated weakly, then pushed his way toward the parking lot. Megan had disappeared, probably fleeing the scene with whatever dignity she had left. "Well," said little Mike, grinning, "that was better than the fireworks." The festival continued around us, but the mood had shifted. People kept approaching me, some offering sympathy, others wanting details, a few congratulating me on my creative response to the situation. Dr. Patel, Megan's boss from the dental office, found me at the fire department booth. "Tom, I'm sorry about all this," he said quietly. "I had no idea what was going on." "Not your fault, Doc." "Actually, it might be. I've been getting complaints about Megan's work lately, missed appointments, distracted during procedures, leaving early. Now I understand why." He shook his head. "I can't have that kind of unprofessionalism in my practice." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying Megan's going to have some difficult conversations when she comes to work Monday." As the sun set and the festival wound down, I packed up the kids and headed back to Danny's apartment. The banner had done its job. By now, everyone in town knew about the affair, knew that Aaron and Megan had been exposed and humiliated. But I wasn't done yet. Not even close. The Riverside Motel hadn't seen better days since the Carter administration. Faded paint, cracked parking lot, and a neon sign that flickered between vacancy and no vacancy, like it couldn't make up its mind. It was perfect for what I had planned. I'd rented room 12 for the week, paying cash and using a fake name. The room was exactly what you'd expect. Stained carpet, thin walls, and a bed that had seen more action than a war zone. But it had something I needed, a clear view of the parking lot and easy access to the adjoining room. Rachel had been busy on her end. As Aaron's wife, she had access to his business accounts, his client list, his phone records. More importantly, she knew his weaknesses. He's desperate, she told me over coffee at a diner outside town. The festival humiliation hit him hard. He's been drinking more, staying out late, picking fights with customers. His business is already suffering. What about Megan? Dr. Patel fired her yesterday. Gina told everyone at the dental office about the affair, and apparently several patients requested different hygienists. Bad for business. I felt a grim satisfaction. So they're both feeling the pressure. That's not all. Aaron's been talking about leaving town, starting fresh somewhere else. He wants Megan to come with him. Running away. That sounds like Aaron. Rachel's expression hardened. He thinks he can just abandon everything, his business, his debts, his responsibilities. Leave me to clean up the mess while he rides off into the sunset with your wife. Not if we stop him first. The plan was simple but effective. Rachel would tell Aaron that she'd found evidence of my abusive behavior toward Megan and the kids. Fake evidence that would make him think he could use it in court to help Megan win back custody. All he had to do was meet her at the motel to see the proof. Meanwhile, I'd tell Megan that Aaron was having second thoughts about their relationship, that he'd asked to meet privately to discuss their future. She'd rush to the motel to convince him not to abandon her. The beauty was that both of them would come willingly, thinking they were getting what they wanted. Wednesday evening, I positioned myself in room 12 with a digital camera and waited. I'd set up a small recording device in the adjoining room, perfectly legal since I was the one renting it. At 8 p.m. sharp, Aaron's red pickup pulled into the parking lot. He looked around nervously before heading to room 11. 5 minutes later, Megan's Honda arrived. She parked next to Aaron's truck and hurried to the same room. Perfect. I gave them 10 minutes to get comfortable, then knocked on the door. Room service, I called out in a fake accent. We didn't order anything, Aaron's voice, muffled through the door. Complimentary champagne for the happy couple. Management's orders. I heard whispered conversation, then footsteps. The door opened, and Aaron's face went white when he saw me. Hello, Aaron. Megan. I pushed past him into the room. Megan was sitting on the bed in her underwear, clutching a sheet to her chest. The room smelled like cheap wine and betrayal. What the hell are you doing here? Aaron demanded. Funny thing, I said, setting up my camera on the dresser. Rachel and I have been comparing notes. Turns out you've both been lying to each other just as much as you've been lying to us. Tom, you can't be here, Megan said, her voice shaking. This is harassment. Actually, this is my room. Well, the one next door is. Amazing how thin these walls are. I pressed play on my phone, and their voices filled the room, recorded from the past 10 minutes. I can't believe Rachel fell for it, Aaron's voice. Tom's so stupid. He probably still thinks he can win me back, Megan's voice. Once we get out of this town, we'll never have to see either of them again. Aaron lunged for the phone, but I stepped back. I wouldn't. There are copies. Lots of copies. What do you want? Megan asked. I want you to understand what you've done. To me, to Rachel, to our kids. I want you to see yourselves clearly for once. I turned to Aaron. Did you know Megan's been texting her ex-boyfriend from college, planning a backup plan in case you disappoint her? Aaron's head snapped toward Megan. What? That's not true, she protested, but her face was red. And Megan, I continued, did you know Aaron's been telling people around town that you seduced him? That you were the one pursuing him while his wife was grieving? You bastard, she hissed at Aaron. You said you loved me. I do love you, Aaron said desperately. Tom's lying, trying to break us up. Am I? I pulled out Aaron's old phone, the one Rachel had given me. These are your words, Aaron, your texts to your buddy Rick at the auto parts store. I read from the screen. Megan's hot, but she's clingy as hell. Good for now, but I'm not looking for another wife, especially one with kids. Megan's face crumpled. You said you wanted to be a family. I was just saying what you wanted to hear, Aaron snapped. Jesus, Megan, you're not that naive. And there it was. The truth, finally out in the open. They'd been using each other just as much as they'd been using Rachel and me. Here's what's going to happen, I said calmly. You're both going to stop pretending this was some great love story. You're going to face the consequences of your choices like adults, and you're going to leave my children out of your drama. Or what? Aaron tried to sound threatening, but his voice cracked. Or I release all of this to everyone. Your clients, Aaron, your family, Megan, every person in town who still thinks you might be decent human beings. I picked up my camera and headed for the door. Enjoy your evening. And Aaron, your wife wants the house keys back. Tonight. I left them there, half-dressed and furious, screaming at each other in a cheap motel room. It was exactly what they deserved. But I wasn't finished yet. The final act was still to come. The auto repair shop that Aaron had built his reputation on sat on the edge of town, all gleaming chrome and expensive equipment. He'd always been proud of that shop, bragged about his state-of-the-art diagnostic computers and hydraulic lifts. It was his identity, his proof that he'd made something of himself, which made it the perfect target. I didn't vandalize anything. I'm not a criminal. But I didn't have to. Aaron's own actions were destroying his business faster than any sabotage could. Word of the motel confrontation had spread through town like wildfire. Small towns love their gossip, and this story had everything: betrayal, drama, and a satisfying comeuppance. By Friday, Aaron had lost 3 major clients, including the contract to service the town's emergency vehicles. People don't trust him anymore, Gus told me over lunch at the diner. Would you want a guy like that working on your car? Guy who lies to his wife, betrays his friends? Character matters, I agreed. Damn right it does. And speaking of character, the whole crew wants you to know, whatever you need, we're behind you. I appreciated the support, but what I needed now was patience. Aaron was spiraling, making increasingly desperate moves. All I had to do was wait for him to hang himself. The opportunity came sooner than expected. Saturday morning, Aaron showed up at the construction site where my crew was working. He was drunk, belligerent, and looking for a fight. "Where is he?" he shouted, stumbling between the equipment. "Where's that coward Tom Jacobs?" The crew stopped working and formed a loose circle around him. These were hard men who didn't appreciate having their workday interrupted by some drunk fool. "Aaron," I said, emerging from the trailer where I'd been reviewing blueprints. "You shouldn't be here." "Shouldn't be here?" He laughed bitterly. "This is my town too, Tom. You don't get to run me out." "Nobody's running you out. You're doing that all by yourself." He took a swing at me, clumsy, telegraphed, the punch of a man who'd spent more time at the gym than in actual fights. I stepped aside easily, and he stumbled past me into the mud. "Aaron, go home, sleep it off." "You think you're so smart," he snarled, getting to his feet. "You think you've won. But I know things about you, Tom. Things that would surprise people." "Like what?" "Like how you used to hit Megan, how you threatened her if she ever left you." The construction site went quiet. Every man there knew me, had worked with me for years. They knew I'd never raise a hand to a woman. "That's a serious accusation, Aaron," I said calmly. "You got any proof?" "I got Megan's word, her testimony. Bruises I saw with my own eyes." "Funny thing about bruises," said little Mike, stepping forward with his phone. "They show up real good in photographs. You got any photographs, Aaron?" Aaron's face went red. She was scared to document it, afraid of what he'd do. "So no proof," said Gus. "Just the word of a cheating woman and the man she was cheating with. Real credible sources there." "You're all covering for him," Aaron accused. "You're all part of it." That was his mistake. Accusing my crew, good, honest men who'd worked hard for everything they had, of being complicit in domestic violence. Pete, our electrician, stepped forward. At 62, he was the oldest man on the crew and commanded respect from everyone. "Son," he said quietly, "I've been working construction for 40 years. I've seen real abusers, and I've seen good men. Tom Jacobs is a good man. You, on the other hand, are a liar and a coward." "And a drunk," added Tiny. "Driving around town in that condition. Someone should call the police." Aaron's eyes went wide as he realized his situation. He was outnumbered, intoxicated, on private property, making false accusations. If the police showed up now, he'd be the one in handcuffs. "This isn't over," he said, backing toward his truck. "Yes, it is," I replied. "Aaron, it's been over since the night you decided to betray our friendship. Everything since then has just been you learning what that decision cost you." He drove away, weaving slightly, and I made a mental note to call the police about a drunk driver on Route 2. Not out of spite. I genuinely didn't want him to hurt anyone. That afternoon, I got a call from Janet Morrison. "Tom, we need to talk. Megan's lawyer just filed a motion claiming you've been threatening and harassing her. They're asking for a restraining order." "Based on what evidence?" "Aaron Miles's testimony. He claims you assaulted him at a motel and have been stalking them." I smiled. "Janet, I think it's time we played our ace." "The recordings?" "All of it. The motel meeting, Aaron's accusations at the job site, everything. Let's see how their story holds up when the judge hears the actual facts." The emergency hearing was scheduled for Monday morning. I spent the weekend with my kids, taking them to a movie, helping with homework, being the stable parent they needed while their mother's world collapsed around her. Monday morning, the courthouse was packed. Word had gotten out about the hearing, and half the town seemed to have found excuses to be there. In the gallery, I spotted several of my crew members, some of Megan's former co-workers, and even a few of Aaron's ex-clients. Megan sat with her lawyer, looking haggard and desperate. She'd lost weight, and her usually perfect hair was limp and unwashed. Aaron sat behind her, wearing a suit that didn't quite hide his hangover. "Your Honor," Megan's lawyer began, "my client has been subjected to a campaign of harassment and intimidation by her estranged husband. She fears for her safety and requests immediate protection." Judge Franklin looked skeptical. "What evidence do you have of this harassment, counselor?" "Mr. Miles witnessed an assault at a local motel, where Mr. Jacobs forced his way into a private room and threatened both my client and Mr. Miles." "I see. Ms. Morrison, your response?" Janet stood smoothly. "Your Honor, we have audio recordings of the entire incident in question. Mr. Jacobs was in a room he had legally rented, and the so-called assault was actually a conversation where the truth about Mrs. Jacobs and Mr. Miles's deception was revealed." She played the recordings for the court. Aaron and Megan's voices filled the courtroom, their casual cruelty, their lies, their complete lack of remorse for the damage they'd caused. The effect was devastating. Several people in the gallery gasped audibly. Megan buried her face in her hands. "Furthermore," Janet continued, "we have testimony from multiple witnesses about Mr. Miles's actual behavior, including his appearance at Mr. Jacobs's workplace while intoxicated, making false accusations of domestic violence." Pete stood up in the gallery. "Your Honor, I saw the whole thing. That man was drunk as a skunk, making wild accusations, trying to start a fight. Tom Jacobs never laid a hand on him." "And," Janet concluded, "we have evidence that Mrs. Jacobs and Mr. Miles have been planning to leave the state to avoid their legal and financial obligations." Judge Franklin reviewed the evidence silently, her expression growing sterner by the minute. "Mrs. Jacobs," she said finally, "not only am I denying your request for a restraining order, but I'm ordering you to undergo a psychological evaluation before any custody decisions are made. Your behavior as documented in these recordings shows a troubling lack of judgment and concern for your children's welfare." "Your Honor," Megan's lawyer protested, "my client was emotional, not thinking clearly." "Your client was callous and calculating," the judge interrupted. She showed no remorse for her actions, no concern for the impact on her children, and no honesty about her intentions. Mr. Miles, I'm warning you that any further harassment of Mr. Jacobs or his family will result in criminal charges. The gavel came down with finality. In the hallway afterward, Aaron cornered me one last time. "You've destroyed everything," he said bitterly. "My marriage, my business, my reputation. Are you happy now?" I looked at him, really looked at him. The swagger was gone, the confidence shattered. He looked like what he'd always been underneath, a weak, insecure man who'd tried to build himself up by tearing others down. "Aaron," I said quietly, "I didn't destroy anything. You did that all by yourself. I just made sure everyone could see what you really are." "And what's that?" "A coward who betrays his friends and abandons his responsibilities when things get difficult. A man who lies to everyone, including himself." Aaron's shoulders sagged. "What am I supposed to do now?" "Grow up. Take responsibility for what you've done. Try to become the man you should have been all along." I walked away, leaving him standing in the courthouse hallway. Behind me, I could hear Megan crying, her lawyer trying to explain why their case had fallen apart so completely. Outside, the sun was shining, and I had somewhere important to be. The kids would be getting out of school soon, and for the first time in months, I felt like I could give them the attention they deserved. Aaron and Megan had wanted a new life together. They'd gotten exactly that, a life where everyone knew what they really were, where their choices had consequences, where their betrayal had cost them everything that mattered.